Obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 2, 1.
Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, TGIF. Bring on the grievances, baby. And by baby, I mean you, Big Fancy Brian. How you doing, big guy?
I'm all right. Just good old months and months of planning coming to fruition tomorrow. It's a largely anticipated day for me, so I'm kind of getting in kind of on edge. It's exciting for me, and it's exciting for everybody.
I have that same sort of Christmas comes tomorrow sort of feeling. Only It's like work your ass off Christmas. Like if you had to go dig the coal in the Santa's coal mine to fuel the sleigh for the entirety of Christmas, I'm looking forward to that kind of a day tomorrow. How about you, Fancy?
Yeah, but I've been building it up. I've been building up and building it up, but now it's going to happen. It's going to be exciting.
Well, we are moving tomorrow. This is the last official broadcast from the Devil Radio Studios and the new Solidarity Studios. They've been built out, and we're moving in this weekend. And knock on wood, man, we'll be doing live shows next week. And Fancy Brian, if we don't, it's because you failed us.
It's probably because I failed.
You know,
yes.
I normally wouldn't say this, but that rack over your shoulder, oh, it makes you look sexy.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that we compliment each other. Alone, not sexy at all, but together, very sexy.
I've never seen a sexy computer rack like that, but your image in it, oh, sexy.
You know, and sometimes I can look in it and maybe have like the reflection of myself up there, like maybe Ashcroft when he was singing Eagles Soaring. Anyway,
don't make me sing. I'll do a Rudy Giuliani without the mask.
Oh,
let's jump into the headlines. Let's get
do
there.
It.
Now, here is the breaking news. An awesome jobs report. It was freaking awesome.
Hooray!
Yeah. Joe Biden need a break. Now, my understanding, revisions of prior months up 700,000 jobs. And the newest jobs report, the prediction, like 150,000 jobs. And the actual 459,000 jobs. I got to think Joe Biden's feeling a little good this morning. But before we go to the president, I think Fox News kind of gets turned on by the prospects of America failing. Now, I heard you and Fancy Luke talking a little bit. You're both fancy. When you join on the show together on the dueling tangents, you're both kind of fancy, a little sexy. But I know you guys talked a little bit about this, but we've got some sound. We borrowed this sound, sort of a super mash. And the sound is the giddiness about the anticipation of the jobs report. Only Foxy News was rooting against America.
Good job.
Got that? I don't know if you're playing it or if you're playing it. We got two producers. Evan on this.
I do not have it.
Well, Evan, you play the sound for the fair audience, and Big Fancy Brian, cut number 9, giddiness, I tell you.
In the next hour, the January job report will be released, and it could be the worst in years.
The White House has been bracing for a bad number.
It could be a loss of 300,000 jobs. How's the White House going to put a happy face on that?
Wall Street thinks that we might see a loss of hundreds of thousands of jobs.
It could be a morning of pain because just about 28 minutes from right now, the January jobs report is going to be released by the Bureau of Labor and whatnot.
Projection is for an already low 150,000 jobs added, but ADP, the company that processes payrolls, says this to expect 301,000 jobs lost. That would be a 500,000 jobs swing the wrong way.
The Biden administration bracing for yet another economic bust. We're going to bring you the January jobs report.
Soon after.
Well, it didn't work out that way.
The January jobs report just released, the U.S. adding 467,000 jobs last month.
So how do you like them apples? Right?
Wrong.
Fox News, the foxiest of all the news channels.
But they're rated number one.
You know, but you can tell they've got a rooting interest in seeing bad jobs numbers. But bad jobs numbers, by extension, that really doesn't hurt Joe Biden. He's got a job. It hurts America, man.
Yeah.
It is so surprising. Remember when they were rooting against America and us getting the Olympic sites? I think the Olympics have started. You know, it's snowing outside. It must be the Winter Olympics. But Rush Limbaugh and others, they were rooting against Chicago, rooting against America. Well, they're doing it in front of the jobs numbers. So they're not just rooting against us broadly as a nation, but also you individually as workers, they're rooting against you.
And now they have to go out there and say, well, the jobs report was good. People have more jobs now. Like, is that what they came out with? Or do they say, wow, we were off and we were wrong? It must be, I apologize for being so biased and crazily off.
Stuart Varney, that sort of tepid response to the jobs numbers. I haven't seen a droopy dog like that since I asked Senator John Lehman, who was running for lieutenant governor at the time. He was Mary Burke's co-pilot. I haven't heard the droopy dog since I said boxers or briefs.
I don't want to be a senator.
The answer was boxers. Gonna have a big show. They make me
feel happy.
Gonna have a big show. Got a big show. I think Fancy Brian, I think he's feeling good. We're giddy. We're moving this weekend. You know, you always look forward to the new place, but you always know it's going to be a bitch of a weekend when you got to move. So let's get into the good news. No grievances here except over on Foxy News. President Joe Biden, back to work. Everybody works on Monday. Cut number 10.
America is back to work. Today, we learned that in January, our economy created 467,000 jobs.
That's a lot of jobs.
See,
a lot more than predicted.
I have a problem with the phrasing. He says our economy, not my economy.
More from President Joe Biden. My president. It's a great opportunity. Cut 11.
America's job machine is going stronger than ever, fueling a strong recovery and opportunity for hardworking women and men all across this great country.
Sort of a lukewarm Joe. Be excited, Joe. You know, prior in the week, you know, I overreacted a little bit. People thought I was setting Joe up for a bad reaction. That was not my goal. I just heard some peppy Joe, some excited Joe. You should be excited. These are great job numbers. Joe, pep up, buddy. A little bit more from the president, my president, your president. It is a strong comeback. Cut 12.
Our country is taking everything that COVID has to throw at us, and we've come back stronger.
We now have a 4% unemployment rate, and that ticked up slightly, but the national unemployment rate at 4%, once upon a time, wouldn't they have called that full employment? And above and beyond that, we see a labor participation rate. Because, you know, the Sean Handys of the world, the right-wing talk radio, well, yeah, the unemployment rate's down, but have you seen the labor participation rate? Yeah, highest participation rate since before the pandemic began. So we got more people working, a lower unemployment rate. Joe Biden's administration, you know, the greater U.S. economy, has created 6.6 million jobs plus, and we saw upward revisions. So this is a damn good day, Joe Biden. I hope he gets a few more like this. We might have a fighting chance in the midterms. A little bit more. He's leading the world. Maybe we're leading the world. I know this show's leading the world. 13 and then 14, please.
I know that January was a very hard month for many Americans. I know that after almost 2 years, the physical and emotional weight of the pandemic has been incredibly difficult to bear for so many people. The United States is once again.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say that. And Trying to carry Fancy Brian every afternoon. You get heavy, brother.
I am a large man.
Let's play cut 14. Sorry to interrupt the president.
The United States is once again in a position to not only compete with the rest of the world, but outcompete the rest of the world once again.
Well, we'll see. It's Winter Olympics time. We don't do as well in the winter sports. One more from the president, Joe Biden, my president, your president, our president, cut 15.
We're still going to work on gas prices. We're still going to work on the food prices.
Now, I'm shocked Fox News didn't preempt the great jobs report to tell us that it's the highest gas prices in like 7 years. Did you hear that? Gas is up again.
It's up, it's down, it's back up again.
I know. The highest in 7 years means it's not unprecedented, the inflation rates, right? That means in 2014, we had gas just as expensive as it is right now.
But it must be the machinations of the president only and only. The president, by the way, using the levers of power to go and make the gas prices go up by 5 to 10 cents each day.
You don't think it's Joe Biden out there, squeezing a couple extra nickels at the gas pump?
He's simultaneously somehow a doddering fool, but yet genius enough to be able to control gas prices from his own living room.
Well, that is a talented man. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk with some fine guests today. And I got to tell you, this show is sort of let's call it an Oreo sandwich. And you tell me, Fancy Brian, do you like the cookies on the outside? Are you like a cookie eater firster, or do you go for that double stuffed cream? In this case, the double stuff are two fine guests, man. We got Bill Press. He's a pundit. He's a podcaster. He's a friend of ours. Bill Press joins just a few minutes from now. And then coming back in the 4 o'clock happy hour, we got James Santelle, former U.S. attorney. I mean, so many legal topics this week. I was complaining last year. It wasn't moving fast enough for my taste. Now it's at warp speed. Keep her together, Scotty.
Things are happening at a rapid pace now.
Including this weekend when we move. Right now, celebrating the last broadcast ever from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison. Because come Monday, we got better studios. Probably functioning by Monday, we'll hope. And we're calling it the Solidarity Realty Studios. We appreciate the fine sponsorship of them. But the new place, it's nice. Can't wait to show it off to all you fine people. Come back, show off, join us on the phones. Grieve right now at 844-967-2789.
There are many, many jobs for many, many people.
You know what? I'm happy.
I did what I came to do.
63 Americans a day die by gun suicide. By storing our guns safely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo, we can give our loved ones a second chance at life. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
I may never have met you. We don't go way back. Maybe we wouldn't even be friends if we did. But when you wear a mask, you have my respect. Because your mask doesn't protect you. It protects me. I wear my mask to protect you. Mask up, America.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
If doctors, nurses, and grocery store clerks can wear a mask for 10 or 12-hour shifts, you can wear a mask for an hour or less when you go to the store. Do your part. Mask up, America.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
The Devil's Advocates, rock and roll political commentary in a top 40 world.
We made it. It is Friday. We're going to have a good time. Got Fancy Brian laying out the Led Zeppelin, it sounds like. The cool licks, they come out on Fridays. If you have any, musical requests, or if you have a grievance there, 844-967-2789. Fancy Brian, I got a grievance. Bring that down. No more good time music. I'm back.
Okay, fine.
Fired up.
No ocean for you.
You see what the RNC did today, the Republican National Committee? They voted to censure Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. and their crime, air quotes, were serving on the January 6th committee. So basically, we have an entire political party through their apparatus that voted today to disown two disloyal. So really, they're with the terrorists to this day, to this moment. And by the terrorist, I mean not just the January 6th insurrectionist, but of course the insider in chief, their guy, the guy they've been paying the legal fees for. A little bit from Tell Axelrod. Sorry, Tell. Over at thehill.com, I find this reporting. The Republican National Committee, RNC, on Friday voted formally. It wasn't informal. It wasn't like, hey, what do you think? I don't like them. No, it was a formal vote to censure GOP reps Liz Cheney, Wyoming, and Adam Kinzinger from Illinois over their criticism of former President Trump. How dare they? And participation in the special House committee investigating January 6, 2021's and the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Now, do you think this censure will somehow change their minds? Do you think Adam Kinzinger's like, oh, man, up until now, I was for truthing, outing, what happened on January 6th, but now that you've censured me, let's bury it deep, deep in the closet again, right?
Well,
is that what they're hopeful for?
Let's just say that the RNC as itself as a body hasn't really established itself as maybe, I don't know, an arbiter of integrity and or I don't know, maybe they shouldn't be the ones to go and say who's doing a good job of being a good governor or not, or good governance, I would say.
Well, easy for you to say. If you've got words that come out of your lips, 844-967-2789. Here are a couple of the other resolutions. I want to share some of the language. The resolution, which unanimously passed through the Resolutions Committee on Thursday, was included in a package with 4 other motions. There's some good ones, some doozies in here. Here's one. Hold communist China accountable for COVID-19. Hold them accountable.
But they have to say communist China, but like communist China, they're communists and they're jerks.
Does this mean they have a platform? Because last time I checked, the Republicans had thrown out the platform. The platform was whatever the cult leader wants, that's what we do. And
Ron Johnson said he didn't want to get into specifics.
Well, it's the same basic agenda. It's whatever Trump wanted. But I mean, you can't just, you can do whatever you want. You're a private club and I don't belong to your club. Here a little bit more. The resolution that censured Cheney and Kinzinger said the 2 lawmakers are participating in the persecution. Did you get all that? Persecution of ordinary citizens engaged in legitimate political discourse by sitting on the January 6th panel, which was convened last year by Speaker Nancy Pelosi. A little bit more, and then I'll let you in, buddy. The resolution adds the RNC shall immediately cease any and all support of both lawmakers as member of the Republican Party for their behavior, which has been destructive to the institution of the U.S. House of Representatives. The Republican Party and our republic, smaller, and is inconsistent with the position of the conference because we're all freaking insurrectionists, right? I mean, the entire party's platform now is we're down for insurrection and you're on the wrong side of history? Question mark.
I don't think it's insurrection in their minds per se, as no matter what, we can't trust anyone else to win, so only we can win. And that's
strong fascistic patriotism.
Because again, if you try and hold them to their own standards, they're so hypocritical. They're going to like in this state, they're actually arguing against things that they themselves have set up. It's insane, but it doesn't matter because the only thing that matters is whether they win or not. And this whole thing is calling into question whether they actually won or not. And I have to ask you, these people, like the innocent people that are, doing political action, are those the people that were arrested and tried and sentenced, or the other people that haven't been tried and sentenced yet but are awaiting sentencing? I don't know. Did they make it any distinction?
You read it entirely wrong. They're waiting pardoning. Let me get the quote out from Rona McDaniel. Drop the Romney from her name. Apparently, he's also been disowned from the party. Her uncle, Mitt. But here's her quote. Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger crossed a line. They chose to join Nancy Pelosi in a Democrat-led persecution of ordinary citizens who engaged in legitimate political discourse that had nothing to do with the violence at the Capitol. Yeah, kind of they did. They were guilty by association, if nothing else. That's why the Republican National Committee members and myself overwhelmingly support this resolution. Here's a little bit more. However, moderate Republicans came to their defense this week. What's sad is that a year after the attack on the Capitol, the RNC is yet to condemn those who participated in the riot. Committee member Bill Patalachutsy of New Jersey, who was in the room when the committee passed the resolution Thursday, told The Hill Friday morning, the censure is just a distracting sideshow. Shame falls on a party that would censure persons of conscience who see truth in the face of vitriol. Honor attaches to Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger for seeking truth. Even when doing so comes at great personal cost. Well, tweeted Senator Mitt Romney. No wonder why Rona McDaniel, formerly Romney, dropped the Romney from her name. How dare her uncle insult the party that would throw out its morals for.
They don't have the same relationship as the Duceys do.
Oh, the Duceys, they're close. Bill Press, I'm close. He's a friend of ours. He joins me next on the show. Daryl from the Cities, man. Sorry, I saw you there. I'm just kind of jerky. Sometimes I don't take the calls. More Devils. We'll be right back.
So good. I will do anything it takes to win, even if it means lying or physically hurting someone. Easy.
When you're gonna turn on the radio, you gotta listen to Devil Radio 92.7.
The Dark Horse Art Bar is hosting the Heart Show, a Valentine's-themed art show running from now until the 26th. This art gallery is curated by pieces from more than 15 artists, sharing their renditions of love, lust, and even loss. The Heart expresses so many emotions. The Heart Show is open now through Saturday, February 26th at the Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington Avenue in Madison, with free parking in the building.
Hey man, you still driving to Beloit for gummies and carts?
Yeah, man, it's a real drag.
Well, stop wasting gas, man, and ride your bike over to Williamson Street and stop into Quality CBD. They have gummies and carts.
Huh? They have gummies?
And all your favorites like Delta 8, Delta 10, and THCP.
Wow, man, where are they located?
Find Quality CBD at 1222 Williamson Street in Madison. For more information, visit qualitycbd.org. That's Quality CBD.
Coronavirus update. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. Stocks finished mixed. The Dow down 21 points. Employers added a burst of jobs last month. Here's the AP's Sagar Magani.
It was an unexpectedly strong gain, 467,000 jobs, as employers appear to see the Omicron wave as having, at worst, a temporary effect on the economy. The government also sharply revised December's job growth from 199,000 to 510,000. The unemployment rate rose slightly to 4%. Overall economic growth is likely to be much slower this quarter as many Americans cut spending during the virus case surge, but incomes rose at a solid pace in January, setting the stage for future spending. Sagar Magani, Washington.
New cases of the coronavirus are falling in at least 49 of 50 states as Omicron rapidly loosens its grip, even as the nation's death toll closes in on 900,000. I'm Ed Don.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
Channel.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. According to reporting from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, the 10 Wisconsin Republicans who signed legal documents claiming that former President Donald Trump won Wisconsin.
Greetings. How you doing, Mr. Press?
Hey, there we are. Hi. Hello. Hello.
Hello, hello. You sound good. You look better. We're back in 30 seconds.
Growing calls for Wisconsin and federal law enforcement to investigate the fraudulent electors. Almost 3 weeks after a bullying incident that sent a special needs student from La Follette High School to the hospital, Madison police officers made an arrest on Wednesday and plan to make a second arrest soon. A virtual public hearing to review the environmental permitting process of an Enbridge oil pipeline through 2 northern Wisconsin counties lasted 10 hours and was attended by close to 300 people this week.
Okay.
You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
All right. Hey, yeah, it's good. I could put my hat on too.
Malarkey. The devil's advocates invented malarkey.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We welcome back a fine guest and a good friend. He is podcaster Bill Press. He's a pundit. You know him. You love him. Bill, welcome back to the big show, man.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thank you. Big podcast up today. We do our roundtable on Friday, where we look back at the news of the week. Check it out on Bill Press Pod, wherever you listen to podcasts.
And who were the fine guests today, Bill?
3 of top reporters. Linda Feldman's the bureau chief for the Christian Science Monitor. Hunter Walker has his own newsletter on Substack called The Uprising. And then Jennifer Habercorn, who covers Congress for the LA Times. So
excellent cast.
Yeah.
I've got to settle for Bill Press. Hey, Bill, man, finally our president, Joe Biden, caught a break in the jobs numbers. They were excellent. Although, did you see the Foxy News hosts? They were all rooting against not just Joe Biden, but the country, I'd like to think, Bill.
They do every day, right? Yeah. No, anything that happens that's good for news, right, is bad news for Fox. I mean, Joe Biden can't even go out for an ice cream cone, right, without Fox going absolutely berserk, right? Nuts. Oh, my God, he's got, he should be down there worrying about Putin. Yeah, I wish Putin would go out for an ice cream cone. Right? So, no, those job numbers were great, very strong. Look, the fact is, COVID is slowing down. Happily, we won't have another variant, but we're better positioned to take care of it if we are. It's slowing down. People are going back to work. Jobs are coming back. People are hiring again, and I think we've turned the corner.
Well, Bill, I had seen upward.
By the way, can I add something?
Absolutely.
Well, which means that all those people, and most of them, everybody else in the media except me and you, maybe, who said Democrats are doomed to failure in 2022. There's no way they can win the midterms, which was total BS. And I kept telling people, look, there's a lot of time, right? What's most important, get the economy back, get that infrastructure money out there, show that Democrats are delivering on the economy and on jobs, and they're going to be fine. I'm not saying they're going to win everything, but it's not going to be a wipeout. I think we hold on to the House, and I think we hold on to the Senate.
Well, you are an optimistic man this Friday. One good jobs reports turned your entire attitude.
No, I've been thinking this for a long time. And by the way, Biden just doesn't get enough. Look, I'm not, on his payroll, but he just doesn't get enough credit, right? Look, on COVID, he did go from 20 million people vaccinated to 220 million people vaccinated, right? He got us through the Omicron crunch and the Delta and the Delta crunch. He got the infrastructure bill and he got the stimulus bill. The two of them combined are more than LBJ and FDR accomplished in their first year combined, right? He's going to get an addition to the Supreme Court. He got the head of ISIS, right? Gone now. And I think this thing he did yesterday with the cops in New York was very, very good, very strong. So I think you're going to see a resurgence in Democratic hopes for 2022.
Well, obviously, Joe Biden having a good week, ending on a high note with this great jobs report and upward revisions and an increase in the labor rate. And Bill, I would point out here in the state of Wisconsin, we have a historically low unemployment rate, lower than it's ever been, 2.8%. It's 4% nationally. And it ticked up slightly because more people jump back into the labor pool because the jobs economy is so strong. So it's going to be hard for Fox News to spin it, but we know they'll try. But let's contrast that, Bill, with the really sort of horrible bad week that Donald Trump's having so far. Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Look, first of all, I know since you've been on the air, probably Mike Pence just stuck a knife in Donald Trump's back in front of the Federalist Society and down in Florida, of all places, right into Trump's backyard, and said Trump is wrong that that he won, that and Biden lost. Number one, and number two, Trump is wrong that Pence had the authority to single-handedly overturn the election. Trump still asserts that. He asserted earlier this week. So Pence is that, that's as close to a break with Trump as Pence probably will ever come, but it's pretty strong, right? So he loses Pence. He's got, the news came out that he has the January 6th committee, man, they're closing in on Trump. Now, they can't send him to prison, but they can really make the case why he should go to prison. They released this week the fact that he called 3 different federal agencies, the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Justice Department, and asked them to seize voting machines. I mean, martial law, seize the voting machines. Thank God all 3 of them said, headed by people he appointed, said, no, we cannot do that. We don't have the authority. Then the committee released the fact that all the documents, most of the documents they got from the National Archives, they had to tape them back together because Trump had ripped them into shreds before they left the White House. So either the White House staff or the National Archives staff, had to Scotch tape them all together. And then you have the fact that Trump was out there directing people to get fake slates of fake electors sent to Washington. I mean, I think it's pretty clear now that Donald Trump just didn't inspire the insurrection of January 6th. He organized it,
Well, Bill, doesn't that trouble you in this regard? I mean, if we'd seen videotape of an armed robbery or a breaking and entering or any other crime, if we saw the videotape in the same fashion we all have as Americans,
right?
We saw the evidence in the public reporting, and we can all, add it up, those that aren't enamored by Fox News, at least. Why aren't we seeing the Department of Justice move? And I know you don't work for Merrick Garland over there, but, it shouldn't be up to the January 6th committee to make referrals for criminality. I mean, we know the guy was actively trying to overturn the election. He was trying to overturn democracy. Bill, seems like there's a crime that they could indict on and then gather a little more evidence if they felt they need to flush it out at trial.
You know the answer?
What is the answer, Bill?
The answer is Merrick Garland is sitting on his ass and not doing his job. That's the answer. Merrick Garland is not doing his job. He has all the evidence he needs, right, to indict, to file.
Seemingly, yeah.
No, he's got all the evidence he needs. I mean, people go to prison for, a lot less than that, right? For having 2 ounces of marijuana on them or something. No doubt about it. Slam them, but, close the door, and not Trump. Now, you could say that the Justice Department, the justice system takes time. They got to be sure. I mean, you're right. In this case, the evidence is overwhelming. And I think Garland is afraid that people will say, oh, he's just playing politics by going after a former president. No. This president tried to bring down our democracy. He tried to overthrow the government of the United States. By the way, this gets to another issue, which is the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment said, if you try to overthrow the government of the United States, or if you are part of any attempt to do so, you cannot hold federal office. So,
well, that would eliminate at least 147 Republicans plus Trump.
Bingo, absolutely. And they're using this argument now. Some people have sued in North Carolina to prevent Madison Cawthorn from running for re-election. I went back and read the 14th Amendment. The wording is clear. There is no doubt. Now, for the court's got to uphold it, but if they do, it's not just Madison Cawthorn who's going to be caught in that trap, baby. You're right. It's everybody who voted not to impeach Donald Trump, everybody who voted to accept the fake electors, and it's Trump himself.
Now, Bill, let's talk about fake electors. Oh, yes, sir. You go.
I just want to mention, sort of on the subject. So my column today, which people can find if they just go to follow me on Twitter or go to the website. So my column for the Chicago Tribune today is Time Man of the Year, Mike Pence. Now, he was a toady lackey for 4 years, but I think we got to give him credit. When push came to shove, when it really came down to saving our democracy, Mike Pence finally discovered his backbone and told Donald Trump, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I refuse to do it. And Trump told him that. Woodward and Robert Costa in their book really lay it out there, man. They must have talked to Mike Pence, because Trump told him, I won't be your friend anymore unless you do
No
this.
greater threat is there, Bill. I won't be your friend anymore.
Right.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Got a fine guest. He is Bill Press. You know him from the podcast. You know him from his punditry and, of course, his appearances right here on the Devil's Advocates, often on Fridays. And Bill, always enjoy when you come around. Let me ask you, we saw my U.S. Senator Ron Johnson sort of get tied up in the headlines here in the last day or so. Apparently, Mike Lindell hosted a little basement symposium at the Trump Hotel in D.C. on January 4th of 2021. And what was being proposed at that time, and apparently Ron only attended virtually. He Zoomed in, but he and 2 other Republican senators apparently were there for the briefing. And the plan was to use NSA raw data without warrants to justify seizing these voting machines. And I look at a guy like Ron Johnson, who's on the ballot next this fall, and a guy like Ron Johnson, who clearly knew that there was a coup plan afoot. And we've got sound in the state of Wisconsin right here on my radio station, Bill. An activist caught Ron Johnson laying out the voter numbers in the state of Wisconsin and demonstrating Trump lost because he got undervotes of Republican voters. And we hear that sound on the radio. So we know that Ron knows it wasn't really fixed. No matter what he may say publicly, privately, he knows the truth. And we know that he was in the meeting on January 4th and he heard these crazy propositions, but those crazy propositions equate to crimes, Bill. And he was part of the conspiracy in some way, shape, or form. How do you think that, portends his reelection chances?
Well, look, I'm counting on the people of Wisconsin. I mean, everybody that I've talked to that I respect from Wisconsin, I mean, Mark Pocan, you, Ben Wickler, your great state chair, Charlie Sykes, head of the Bulwark, everybody says, what the hell happened to Ron Johnson? He came in, he promised he was just going to serve, what was it, 2 terms or one, whatever it was.
Oh, Ron promised me on this show that he was only, in 2016, he said, one more term, and I promised the wife, and I promised you, the voters.
Yeah.
Of course, he, promises made, promises broken.
And he was also, sort of a run-of-the-mill conservative, if you will. I wouldn't have voted for him 8 years ago, but he's turned into a total lunatic. And as you point out, it came out this week. Again, he's part of the criminal conspiracy to overthrow the government. The stuff that he said, after January 6th, unfreaking believable. So I would just hope that the people of Wisconsin, look, it's just an embarrassment, right? It's not just his political party. The man is insane. He should not be in public office.
Did I tell you I saw Ron Johnson just the other day? He shook my hand. I'll tell you all about it, Bill. Can you stick around one more segment?
Oh, yes, of course.
More Devil's Advocates, more Bill Press, more of you on the phones perhaps as well. 844-967-2789.
People, let me tell you about my best friend.
I think the White House could have handled this better.
You're going to be dead.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them?
By their clothes,
their age,
the way they speak.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, but it's just as important to take time for yourself. AARP can help. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Is dedication?
People ask how your children learn how to ride a bike and you didn't. I just created an environment where they taught themselves and all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
The Devil's Advocates, because freedom.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Friday is always my favorite because that's often when my pal Bill Press comes around. Bill, appreciate you doing so. He's a podcaster.
Happy to be here.
dropped a new podcast this morning and a column in the Chicago Sun-Times?
No, it's the Chicago Tribune Syndicate. So it's in papers all around the country. But if you go to my website, the Bill Press Pods, you can get the link to it. Yeah.
Awesome. Bill, my audience has heard this story, but I went out and I saw Ron Johnson. He was in my backyard recently. And, how do I not go see my U.S. Senator? So I approached him and I made a point of approaching him separate of the other media types. And I called out to him, Senator, how's it going? He spotted me and he walked over and I had pulled the mask down just so he could see. He was coming out of a building, and despite the mask mandate in my county, maskless, of course, you'd expect nothing less of the U.S. Senator from Wisconsin. But anyways, Rojo saw me and he came over and he gave me sort of a wry smile and he shook my hand. He said, "Oh, I thought you were a media tracker for the other side." And I started giggling and I'm thinking, well, I am rooting against you, sir. But anyways, I complained about the fact he's having a press conference next to the highway. And I said, you don't come on my show. I shouldn't have to chase you to press conferences. Oh, just call the office, something like that. So I go join the press conference, and 3-4 questions in, I jump on, the earlier excitement. Ron had said something very important about, children. They're their parents' responsibility and, not society's effectively. And we can't afford to raise other people's children as a society. So that made something of a hullabaloo. I saw it all over the MSNBC shows and Colbert. Well, I was literally the very first journalist in America. They asked Ron Johnson a follow-up question. And, my question as little orphan Crudy is, what about orphans, Ron? What about children whose parents don't want them? Ultimately, what is society's role for the children, Ron? What is government's role? And, he gave him this crap about compassion. And then he effectively went back and doubled down and said, we cannot afford the child tax credit, $29 trillion deficit and all that stuff. 2 minutes later, Bill, a different reporter was asking him to defend his advocacy for the Trump tax cuts. Came on my show back in 2018, bragged about cutting designated S corps, all that crap. Well, a couple of his donors got $200 million in tax cuts in the year 2018, gave him back $21 million. And he was bragging about the tax cuts, the $1.5 trillion and the tax cuts for 95% of small business owners. And, we can afford those, Bill, but kids, that's somebody else's problem.
No, I mean, tax cuts for the wealthiest of Americans is always the number one agenda for the Republican Party. It was under Daddy Bush, under George W. Bush, under Donald Trump. Right? It's the first thing they do. Remember, George Bush, it was in February or March of 2001 that he signed the bill. They rushed that through the Congress that fast, as if it was the number one priority of the country, right? And in 2017, what was the number one thing Donald Trump signed? A tax cut for the very same people who had already got a double tax cut because Obama continued the Bush tax cuts, right? Again, that was the number one need for this country, is to give people, like Jeff Zuckerberg. Well, of course, he lost $29 billion yesterday, I guess. Poor guy. Maybe we need to give another tax cut to him. It's insane. But you're right. Nothing else. We have no money. There's no money. You talk about for climate change, for child care, for public schools, whatever it is. There's never enough money for that. There's always enough money for another tax cut for the rich. And you know why, Groot? Because it'll trickle down.
Something's been trickling down my leg for years, Bill. To put a bow on my little Rojo story. So anyways, he was so friendly on the greet. And then when I tried to ask a second question at the press conference, and Bill, here in Dane County, people don't send out the A team for Ron Johnson. A lot of news organizations sent just a camera guy. So there were only like 3 of us courageous enough to actually ask the senator questions. The rest were camera guys and they were just focused on him. Well, so anyways, I start asking a follow-up question. He stops me mid-sentence, Bill, and he's like, no, anybody from over here can ask a question. And And I'm thinking, well, you got sick of me quick, didn't you, Ron? So I'm not quite sure that he will be back on the show anytime soon. And he's been banned, so I'm not going to ask.
I think you can count on the fact that he's not coming back. You don't want him back. Don't give him a platform.
I've actually been approached about providing a platform for weekly Rojo bashing between now and the election. And I'm thinking something along the lines of the Rojo Chronicles, or maybe being Ron Johnson. But the guy gives us weekly, daily fodder. And I've got like 25 exclusives with the guy. Every campaign issue this cycle, we've already got him on tape talking about in the last cycle. That's Bill Press. Let's move on, Bill. We got a few callers. You want to take a couple?
Absolutely.
Like live on the radio show. Going to start with Pizza Box Mike. He's a friend of ours. Pizza Box, say hi to my pal, Bill Press.
He's my pal first. Anyway, I got to live as long as Bill Press because, Bill, do you remember the time I called your show years ago and I said that Republicans had to stand on their heads to talk out their asses? And it turns out I was right. But I need to live as long as Bill Press. Crudy, I'll take you along if you're still around and we can go poop on Ron Johnson's grave.
Well, I intend to dance on it at some point, but Bill, any comments for that fine statement?
I just remember every time I saw the phone light up from Madison, Wisconsin, I figured it was going to be Pizza Mike. Is that
Pizza Box Mike? I gave him his own show on the radio station, Bill.
He's
got his own Saturday show.
Oh, cool. Yeah. No, he was one of our favorite callers on the Bill Press show. So it's good to be back in touch. And yes, keep after it. If you guys are going to, let's say, decorate Ron Johnson's grave, I'll be there. Okay.
Hey, Bill, we'll invite you. And one other quick thought. When the false electors broke into the Wisconsin state capitol to cast their false and fraudulent votes for Donald Trump, well, I actually got a citation for bringing a deviltry to the capitol that very same week. Now we're going to pull the video of the false electors and use that in a defense action. I can't wait to use fraudulent electors as my defense for sneaking into the capitol and dropping a deviltry. Bill, we'll always be down for mischief. Come back soon.
You guys have too much fun out in Madison, man. By the way, this is the year we have to do the on-site visit, right? The field trip to Madison.
When you coming, Bill? We got room. We're moving into our new mothership this weekend.
This weekend? All right. As soon as the weather gets warmer, I'll be there.
We'll call you in 6 months, Bill. Have a great weekend, my friend. Come back. More Devil's Advocates. Hour 2 with James Santelle, former U.S. attorney, also a crowd favorite. Come back.
So Obamacare is still in place, and we've doubled the debt. I don't feel like my time here has been particularly successful.
What would you say you do here?
Why not gargle?
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
This is Chad Spate. In 1992, I moved to Madison to pursue a PhD at UW, and I started a residential remodeling company called Chad's Carpentry. I was eager to make a difference, to change.
Mr. Santelle, how are you today?
A remodeling company was.
Is that Luke there? Yes. How are you?
No, it's not Luke. I'm an imposter today.
And we
Kevin,
love
right?
That's correct. How are you, man?
See how easy it is just to,
thank you, Matt,
to confuse me, right?
Well, we'll end the world. Yeah, just put a name tag on it, and all of a sudden, you belong.
Right. You're part of a group that you may not want to be a part of. So good to see. How's my sound? My sound is okay?
Yep, sound and look good. We are up in 6 minutes, man. Thanks for joining us.
Wonderful. Good. I'm mostly concerned about looking good, as you know.
So, as you should be.
224 EG Madison. Always
so much,
streaming on the
No worries.
Devil Radio app.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. The number of people who have died from the coronavirus has reached 900,000 in the U.S., but new numbers show fewer coronavirus cases in 49 of 50 states. President Biden says America's job machine is stronger than ever. 467,000 jobs were added last month. He says over the past year, the economy has added
6.6 million jobs. You can't remember another year when so many people went to work in this country. There's a reason. It never happened.
The AP's Chris Ruggiero reports on the Labor Department's January report.
The gains are pretty broad-based. Retail did show a big gain in jobs, which I think the way the government does the numbers, it suggests that a lot of retailers didn't cut their holiday workers.
Mike Pence is directly challenging Donald Trump's false claims his vice president could have overturned the 2020 presidential results. Here's the AP's Sagar Magani.
It's Pence's most forceful rebuttal yet. He says President Trump is wrong. I had no right to overturn the election. Pence's remarks to the Conservative Federalist Society come as Trump has stepped up efforts to advance his false narrative that Pence could have somehow done something to keep Joe Biden from taking office. Pence himself has been laying the groundwork for a potential White House run in 2 years, which could put him in direct competition with Trump, who has also been teasing a comeback. Sagar Magani, Washington.
The Super Bowl is about a week away in Los Angeles. A suspect was arrested in an altercation last weekend that badly injured a San Francisco 49ers fan in a parking lot outside SoFi Stadium. James Butts Jr. is the mayor of Inglewood, California.
The greatest damage was done because he landed on the back of his head on the pavement.
The man hit had to be put into a medically induced coma. Stocks finished mixed. The Dow down 21 points. This is AP News.
I'm Joel Clark, a Select Quote agent, with a true story that could save you hundreds of dollars a year. A woman named Linda just called. Her husband, Ray, has a group life insurance policy, but is changing jobs and he can't take it with him. Well, I went to work and found Ray, who's 40 and takes medication to control his high blood pressure, a 10-year, $500,000 policy for only $19 a month. That's way more coverage for a lot less than what he was paying. If SelectQuote didn't shop for your life insurance, you're probably paying too much.
For your free quote and to find out how much you can save, call 1-800-597-2010. That's 1-800-597-2010. 1-800-597-2010. Or go to selectquote.com. Since 1985, we shop, you save.
Get full details on the example policies at selectquote.com/commercials. Your premium could vary depending on your health, issuing company, and other factors. Not available in all states.
It could be. It might be. It is. Devil Radio 92.7.
Hey, Jimmy, it's Rocker. Meet me at the new Dark Horse Art Bar in East Wash. Happy hour is Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. You pick the day. 2-for-1 rail drinks and slices of Sal's tomato pies for $1. Jimmy, it's happy hour at the Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington in Madison, across from the Sylvie.
Madison's newest happy hour, craft cocktails, local art and music. Find out more at the new Dark Horse Art Bar and Gallery, online at darkhorsemadison.com.
Wisconsin. You know that Drew Holiday and Brooke Lopez are champions on the court, but did you know they're also champions for our community?
Hey, Wisconsinites. Drew Holiday here.
And Brooke Lopez here.
I love being a champion.
And today I'm asking you to be a champion citizen.
Defend your right to vote and exercise your freedom to vote.
It's more important now than ever because politicians are trying to restrict our freedom to vote.
They're worried about our power, so they want to take it away.
Don't let them do that.
You've got to block that shot.
Paid for by the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign.
This is Rocker, and I'm sitting here on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies, freezing my butt off. So I'm headed next door to the Dark Horse Art Bar for a Rocker Rye whiskey to warm me up. It's a high rye with just a touch of malted barley. It's yummy. Find Rocker Spirits at Festival Foods on East Wash and Woodman's grocery stores. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly.
In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines.
All right. So you prepared to co-devil to the bottom of the hour till 4:30 there?
I think that's exactly right. I can stay longer if you and Mike want, but I'm set to go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Critically high transmission levels of the virus. Yesterday, Public Health Madison and Dane County identified one case of the new subvariant of the Omicron strain of COVID-19 here in Dane County, known as BA2, which is even more contagious than the original Omicron variant. Last week, the City County Health Department extended Dane County's mask mandate through March 1st. Generally cloudy skies throughout the day today with winds up to 10 miles an hour and a slight chance for snow flurries. High today of 19 degrees. Mainly clear skies this evening with an overnight low of 2 degrees below zero. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Friday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. And it's getting better all the time. Want to thank our most recent guest, Bill Press, podcaster, pundit, friend of ours. And we welcome a newfound guest live via Zoom. He is former U.S. Attorney James Santelle, friend of ours. Jim, always a pleasure to have you join me on a Friday.
It is always good to be with you, Mike, especially in a time when this afternoon we can have genuine, legitimate political discourse and not some other fraudulent version of that.
Well, that's to be seen. But let's start by talking about the vice president. The vice president gave a speech today, and it's never going to be strong enough for my taste. It's sort of thin gruel, but he did say specifically that Donald Trump is wrong. Effectively telling the big lie is wrong. It didn't happen. I know that, we've tried to hold Pence up as some sort of backstop, perhaps he helped save democracy, but, it's still thin gruel, Jim.
Absolutely. And so this comes as the vice president is speaking in front of the Federalist Society. One member of the Supreme Court is also speaking. A fellow named Neil Gorsuch is talking with them this afternoon or today. And of course, all this comes in the wake of the president's rally, and I think it's Conroe, Texas, in which he said that Mike Pence personally could have overturned the election by refusing to count the delegates, the Electoral College, and therefore not giving Joe Biden the presidency. We know that's wrong as a procedural matter. We know that's wrong as a constitutional matter. And today it is significant, perhaps not the most significant thing that has ever happened in American history, but the vice president plainly is courting now another part of the party and saying in unequivocal terms that the former president is wrong about that he did not have the authority. The Constitution did in fact require him to do what he did do. And I think it's significant because it does indicate a break, which again, I think Mike Pence, at least up to now, has been somewhat reluctant to do. At least he has tried to engage in a bit of a dance when it comes to still engaging in that side of the political party. Today, moving further across the dance floor, if you will, to continue the metaphor away from the former president. Most appropriately, I agree with you. The language could be even stronger. All of this advocacy by the former president and the other people who continue to surround him in his sphere, wildly, factually inappropriate, unsupported, and destructive to our democracy.
Jim, I thought it was a big week, at least revelations that have become public this week. A lot of reporting from the New York Times and the Washington Post. We learned this week that Trump asked Attorney General Bill Barr to seize voting machines. Then he turned to former retired General Michael Flynn and tried to have him do it, and perhaps brought Sidney Powell along. And then finally, when apparently the Department of Defense didn't seem like a viable avenue,
then he had Rudy or encouraged Rudy to go tell Homeland Security to do it. So they wanted to use raw data from the NSA without warrants to justify seizing voting machines. Jim, something here smells a little fishy to me.
It is more than a little fishy, and about 17 things wrong with not your account of it, but the story about what happened here. And again, you've got it just right. It plainly gives us more sense of the various levels of this attempt, not only to overthrow the government, if you will, but certainly the election that had just happened. And so this is another layer of that, as you just indicated, plainly premised upon some very bad legal advice that the former president was getting, premised upon, again, this notion with NSA information about some foreign intervention. Let's go to different agencies in the federal government to try to get them, see if they've got the authority to seize these election boxes, these voting machines in the states. And you're absolutely right. He goes to the Department of Homeland Security, gets shut down there, goes to the Pentagon, gets shut down there. Bill Barr, Justice Department, likewise. He's looking all around to try to find someone in one of these agencies that will say to him, contrary to what their authority is, yes, Mr. President, we can do this for you. We can go out and we can seize voting machines in the states and therefore bring all this craziness to an end, that the notion that Joe Biden has been properly elected. It is, again, I look for new adjectives. It is outrageous. It is unfounded. And again, it gives you some sense of the extent to which this very purposeful attempt to frankly undermine our government at the state level, at the federal level, and then also on January 6th, which as we now look back in it, was as horrific as that was just a part of the attempt to overthrow our government.
James Santelle, as a former state Department of Justice employee, I would wonder, would you ever have guessed in a million years that recent Masked Singer contestant Rudy Giuliani would have been the guardrail that stopped Trump from utilizing Homeland Security to seize voting machines through marshals of some sort?
We consistently look to Rudy and we think, gosh, what outrageous thing will you do? What thing will you say? Plainly, he was with Sidney Powell and others advocating post-election, even pre-election, that the election was going to be and was in fact stolen. And so we got an awful lot from Rudy Giuliani indicating that he is not a friend of the facts and not a friend of the truth. Here, once again, as you indicate, plainly in these meetings in the Oval Office, in the White House, we're finding out now more about meetings at the Trump Hotel a few blocks away from the White House. We find out that
let's linger there for just a minute, Jim. The Trump Hotel meeting, January 4th, apparently the date, attended in person by 2 Republican U.S. senators, attended virtually by U.S. Senator Ron Johnson. And that was the meeting where they laid out the scheme to utilize NSA raw data. Now, Jim, in and of itself, simply attending a meeting of that sort and then watching a plan of this sort come to fruition, even if it failed, clearly they carried forward on the plan. Does that suggest some criminality amongst the attendees, in your opinion, Counselor?
Yeah, this is the reason why it'd be very important when you focus on an event like January 4th, again at the Trump Hotel. You have to really almost get witnesses there. You're not going to get a transcript of it necessarily, but we know, for example, the pillow guy, Mike Lindell, brought this together. And you need to establish that the people that you invited there have, again, agreed to do something. Have you conspired in some way? Is there some agreement to accomplish an illegal end? And have you done some overt act? Have you done something in furtherance of it? I would offer to you, Mike, that simply attending, listening to something does not bring with it criminal culpability, criminal liability. But if, in fact, you do other things, and you exhibit an agreement that comes from that meeting, that there is an understanding about what you're going to do next, and your purpose with others is to conspire with them to do these things, like use this NSA information to try to get agencies of the federal government to seize the voting equipment, that sort of thing, then you have moved into an area of criminal exposure. The question is, what exactly was said? Simply listening isn't enough. But again, as all these things happen, we find out more and more as the reporting becomes more and more clear, and people including perhaps some 425 people who've testified before the House Select Committee, tell us what's happening in these conversations.
Jim, let's turn to the false electors for a minute. We find out that an attorney Cheeseborough apparently was writing correspondence to Jim Troupis, who's a former Scott Walker, Republican governor of the state of Wisconsin, buddy. And Troupis went on to a district court appointment and eventually looked like he wasn't going to get to the Supreme Court. So he's moved on to represent the Trump lawsuits and trying to win back some shred of overturning the electoral results in Wisconsin. And he wasn't succeeding, but he got this correspondence suggesting this scheme of bringing false electors. And it seemed like because of Wisconsin's low threshold, effectively all you had to do legally was be in the state capitol building. They thought it was quite unproblematic to put forth these fraudulent electors in the state of Wisconsin. Well, Jim, we know they were Wisconsin Elections Commissioner Bob Spindell, chairman of the Republican Party, Andrew Hitt, who is a lawyer by trade. Jim, I don't care what sort of legal advice they were getting back in the state of Wisconsin, or even from a guy like Rudy. They had to sense that something here when they were certifying fraudulent information. If I did that on a loan application at the bank, they'd haul my ass to jail, Jim.
Absolutely. And, the defense, which we're hearing somewhat of, gosh, my lawyer told me this, or I got a legal memorandum, that only goes so far. Those are things like, what is the nature and extent, for example, of a privilege? We know what kinds of things can we talk about when it comes to elements of proof in a claim. To your point, if a lawyer tells you that, well, I think it's okay, Mike, for me to operate a meth lab in my basement or to rob a bank, that sort of thing. Common sense. You don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a member of the federal government, an employee in some way, to know that no, that kind of legal advice has got to be wrong. And to get to your point, in that moment when those false electors were meeting in the state capitol, again, they understood a lot of the technical process. They had to be aware of the fact that right down the hallway, the legitimate electors were meeting, and those tapes we've seen, those video we've seen, properly casting those votes in Wisconsin, that was going on, and they had to know, and they did in fact know the documents that they were signing, things they were putting together and sending off, not just playing games here in Madison for the purpose of having fun, sending them off legitimately to Washington, D.C., the archivist, and others plainly in Washington, D.C. at Capitol Hill. They had to know that their purpose was to defraud. And again, I look at that very compellingly and see the strong possibility of a federal criminal prosecution. We can cite, once again, a number of different federal statutes in the criminal code. We know that Lisa Monaco, the Deputy Attorney General, has said, yes, we've gotten this. We are looking at this. We have received this information. There is an open file. There are open files as to at least the number of electors in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Mexico, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, all of those. They're sitting in Main Justice right now, and people are looking at this to determine whether or not there should be charges here. This is a very, very serious matter.
Jim, I think we're short on time. We'll come right back. More Devil's Advocates.
We've all felt left out. And for people who move to this country, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that Smokey's only said,
only you can prevent wildfires.
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when there are parched or windy conditions out there, you gotta be extra careful with things like burning yard waste. After all, wildfires can start anywhere, even in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
Hi, it's Olivia Munn with my shelter pets, Frankie and Chance, reminding you that when you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the Humane Society of the United States, and Maddie's Fund.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
The Devil's Advocates, the fix for political junkies everywhere.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Welcome back from the 420 break. We welcome back a fine guest. He stuck around. He is James Santelle, former U.S. attorney and a friend of ours. And Jim, I wanted to talk about specifically the false electors in the state of Wisconsin. And we know from the New York Times reporting that Jim Troupis, the well-connected Republican lawyer of choice in redistricting and voter ID lawsuits, and apparently lawsuits on behalf of the Trump organization. Well, we know that he was being approached about putting together false electors. And Jim, the date is conspicuous because it was November 18th. And why it's conspicuous is because November 18th was the deadline for Donald Trump to seek a full statewide recount in the state of Wisconsin. He declined. So that suggests to me, A, they knew the votes weren't there, Jim. They knew that Trump had lost Wisconsin. B, this scheme, whether it was to just buy time, drag this out, allow them to go seize some voting machines, whatever the underlying rationale behind it was, they knew that it wasn't because Donald Trump had won the state of Wisconsin. Well, to me, Jim, that really starts undermining some of the legal defenses of the Andrew Hitts and the Bob Spendells. And I know at least Hitt has been subpoenaed before the January 6th committee. In the sort of legal jeopardy he might find himself, Jim, do you expect Hitt will go and plead the fifth over and over and over again?
He is in a tough spot, again, not only because of his conduct here, Troupis as well involved in this plainly, but there are a couple levels to look at this, give this some perspective. One is actually the conduct, of course, as we said. You're signing off on documents that you know are fraudulent. The second layer, which I think is what your very good point gets to, Mike, is this is also a lawyer. And not that every American has the obligation to be truthful, right? We don't want anybody out there lying about things, whether it's under oath or not. But especially lawyers have a heightened obligation. I do as a member of the bar of the state of Wisconsin, and we can sometimes call it ethics. We can call it being a member of the bar, being a part of the court. The obligation is you are obliged to refuse to advocate for facts that are not true when you know that they are not true. You are obligated not to advance theories that you know are fraudulent. You can advocate for things that are natural expressions and extensions of the law. That's entirely possible and sort of assumed in advocacy, but not this. And it's the reason why all those 60 lawsuits around the country are also so problematic. And lawyers like Sidney Powell and others are being disbarred because they stood in front of the bar of the court and said, this is what happened. This is what we know. And there are simply no facts to support that. And their advocacy, which is the icing on top of that factually fraudulent cake, only made things worse. Andrew Hitt and others plainly around the country are not only, again, on files right now at the Department of Justice But I would be highly surprised to learn if the state bar, if the Office of Lawyer Regulation is not also looking at him, as it would the other lawyers around the country and their particular bar associations, for violating the basic oath that I took, that other lawyers take all the time, to be honest, to be forthright, to represent their clients vigorously, but nonetheless not to do it based upon fraud. That's what we had going on here.
And Jim, the December 14th date, when they signed on as fraudulent fake electors, that was the same date the Wisconsin Supreme Court had decided by a 4-3 ruling not to take any more Trump lawsuits. They basically dismissed any claim he had in the state of Wisconsin. So it wasn't like they didn't know when they went in to cast their fraudulent vote that they didn't even have a legitimate legal channel available to them at that point, Jim.
And your point is so well taken. Why is that important that you've got information out there? If this comes to a hearing in front of the Office of Lawyer Regulation, which is administrative and has to do with your bar, your bar license, if in fact it does go in front of a jury at some point, one of the things you need to prove is intent. What did you know? How did you know it? And again, as you said, the timeline here is so very tight. You had to know that quite literally down the hallway, the state Supreme Court has today shut down the latest of these attempts to overturn what happened in November. You had to be aware of that. You were aware of that. That's one of many things that will go to the criminal intent that perhaps a prosecutor at some point may need to present to a jury, to a judge, in support of criminal charges that may well come of this. And again, as I look at this is not just people engaging in political expression. These are people who intended to overturn the election. It is in violation of federal criminal law.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates. I got my fine guest, Jim Santelle, for just a few more minutes. Jim, I feel like Veruca Salt. I want prosecutions now. And here's my thought. If we saw an armed robbery literally and videotaped on TV, and then we saw all the conspirators who were part of the robbery and it was all being reported in the paper, they wouldn't wait to make arrests, Jim. Why are they waiting in this case, talking about the Federal Department of Justice? Why don't we see arrests, sir?
The answer is in part, only in part, that again, when it comes to these kinds of white collar cases, paper cases, transactional cases, you do want to assemble all the evidence you can possibly get. And you might make the argument, I suppose, which doesn't go very far, that this particular kind of conduct will not be repeated. You won't engage in the bank robbery again, that's the analogy. I think that only goes so far. And I'm with you on this.
Bob, violence last Saturday night. If they prosecute me, go get him. I mean, he is posing a danger to law enforcement in real time.
I could not agree with you more. And again, I'm articulating only the opposite side. I think we've now come to the point where in all of these cases, we've got sufficient evidence. I'm increasingly frustrated by the fact that the Department of Justice has not moved, that we don't know about at least some more of these cases moving effectively forward. There should be, the Attorney General should be going forward now with more charges. These are not complicated cases. These are not extensive bank fraud cases. They're understandable and can be presented fairly quickly. I agree with you entirely.
Well, James Santelle, I suspect we'll have you back when it's Merrick Garland Day. We'll all be celebrating the indictments, especially if there's a Trump family member involved. James Santelle, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for being a part.
You also, Mike, stay well, stay safe. Take care.
More Devils. We'll be right back.
Life is winning in America once again.
Stop that. You're not going to do a song while I'm here.
This is the radio station you were looking for. Devil Radio 92.7. It surrounds
Thanks,
us.
man.
It penetrates us. It binds the world
Hey,
together.
Kevin.
Help me, Devil Radio. You're my only hope.
The Dark Horse Art Bar is hosting the Heart Show, a Valentine's themed art show running from now until the 26th. This art gallery is curated by pieces from more than 15 artists, sharing their renditions of love, lust, and even loss. The Heart expresses so many emotions. The Heart Show is open now through Saturday, February 26th at the Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington Avenue in Madison, with free parking in the building.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
I'm here with Abby from Downrins Distilling. Abby, you were just telling me what Downrins mean. What does that mean?
Downrins is actually an Old English term that means afternoon drinking. So you would partake in downrins.
A little day drinking.
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
we Wisconsinites know a little something about that. You guys are going to have a big festival, a Bloody Mary festival, a daytime drinking Bloody Mary festival. Let's talk about that. When is the fest?
So it's going to be our first annual Bloody Mary Fest. It's going to be this year on March 26th. From 11 to 2. We're going to have 20 to 25 different vendors making custom Bloody Marys with all of our different products. You're going to get a ticket, and with that comes like a custom tasting glass that you can go around and sample from all of these different bars and restaurants, and then vote on who you think is the favorite, or who is your favorite.
It's a contest.
Yes,
Abby.
it is. Oh, and the winner gets like a WWE style championship belt. It's amazing.
That is amazing. So where will the big Bloody Mary Fest, where is it going to be at?
Sure. So our distillery is located in Cottage Grove, Wisconsin. And so it's just going to be held right at our tasting room. We have our tasting room. We have a big outdoor cocktail garden. So it'll be held right there.
Give the people the address.
Sure. It's at 300 Progress Drive, Suite F in Cottage Grove, Wisconsin.
And if people want to take part in the big Bloody Mary Fest, the first annual at Downrins Distilling, where's the Facebook? How did they get the tickets?
Sure. So we're on all the social medias. You can find us on Facebook, Downrins Distilling. It's also on our website, downdrinsdistilling.com. And you can buy tickets there, and there's links and more information about the event.
Thank you, Abby. Learn more at downdrinsdistilling.com. See you at the Bloody Mary Fest.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. An individual was shot yesterday on Madison's Far East Side near American Parkway in what law enforcement officers are calling a, quote, critical incident. The shooting occurred while the Madison Police Department was assisting the Wisconsin Department of Justice's Division of Criminal Investigation with an arrest. The Wisconsin DOJ typically investigates all officer-involved shootings, but since they were a part of the situation, the Dane County Sheriff's Office is investigating the incident. One of Milwaukee's largest landlords is flooding the county's eviction courts with nearly 800 eviction filings so far in 2022, despite receiving close to $8 million in federal assistance designated for tenants' rental relief. Dane County is planning to purchase 65 acres of land in the town of Black Earth in order to provide better access to the Morton Forest and bolster recreation in the county. You're listening to Devil Radio.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good. Welcome back to the
Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday edition, 4:00, happy hour. It is the happiest time of the day. Brought to us by what? The Dark Horse Art Bar. All month long, they got the grand opening. They got the Heart Show going on down there. So I encourage you, try the happy hour Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. They start their happy hour same time we do. They don't have perhaps as fine a guest as we just did. James Santelle, former U.S. Attorney Jim Santelle, always a welcome guest, Friday or any day of the week. And your calls, they're often welcome here, depending on who you are, at 844. You know what I'm talking about, Brian. 844-967-2789. I'm hearing a little echo, Brian guy.
Oh, I got you, my friend. We had to up our security a little bit. Maybe have more of a screening, like more than just, hey, what's your name and where you're calling from? Oh, it's you.
And have you been day drinking?
Yeah, it's it's you is one of the new additives we have. So all right.
It's you. Thank you, Jim Santelle. Thank you, Bill Press. Of course, looking forward to the big move, putting you to work this weekend, big guy. But we still got some work to do today on the big show. And I got a couple of headlines I want to share with our fair audience. And then to the phones at 844-96-PARTY. It is a political party up here on a Friday afternoon. But here is the latest from columnist, journalist Daniel Bice, Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, the paper of record. You know, Kevin Nicholson. Kevin Nicholson is a new entrant into the gubernatorial race, but he's got a sugar daddy. He's got a billionaire sugar daddy. So Kevin Nicholson spent 2018 building up his profile, you know, with $13 million from his sugar daddy, and he ran for the U.S. Senate, and he lost the primary. Although he did okay statewide, got crushed in the southeastern Wisconsin media market because right-wing talk radio, they were all down for Leah Volkmer. And boy, what a fine choice they made.
It also didn't help that his family maxed out to his opponent, Tammy Baldwin.
Well, I would have gotten there. Tammy Baldwin, of course, won re-election handily. That was on the very same ticket that Tony Evers won the governorship. And Nicholson, as you point out, Nicholson used to be a Democrat. In fact, he was a very prominent college Democrat, but now he's full-on Republican. But he kind of got caught in a tweet that didn't age so well. At least if you want to be the Republican gubernatorial candidate here in the state of Wisconsin, you got to hate you some Anthony Fauci. Don't you know he's tyrannical? But that's the problem. Nicholson apparently had a personal relationship, you know, and I've apologized for my personal relationship with Ron Johnson frequently, but apparently he had met Fauci and he tweeted about Fauci and he commended Fauci, but now he wants to prosecute Fauci. So he's come full circle in like 2 years. But, you know, that's opportunistic politics for you. Let's hear what Kevin has to say today. Republican gubernatorial candidate Kevin Nicholson wants people to know that he's no fan of COVID-19 lockdowns, mask and vaccine mandates, or Dr. Anthony Fauci, especially Dr. Fauci, going so far now as to say he wants him prosecuted. Doesn't everybody?
I mean, for what?
Anyways, here's what Bice reports about Nicholson. But such wasn't always the case. Back in March of 2020, that was like 2 whole years ago, when the coronavirus was just hitting Wisconsin, Nicholson took to Twitter to vouch for Fauci personally and encourage people to heed the advice of the nation's top infectious disease expert. Like I said, it didn't age well, not for a Republican. Here was the tweet. I've met Dr. Fauci, originally appointed by President Reagan to his role, serving 6 presidents. Now, Nicholson again wrote this March 15, 2020. He is a consummate professional and a true public servant. I urge everyone to listen to his measured and responsible advice on the threat posed by coronavirus. Well, where's that, Kevin Nicholson? I could be supportive of that guy that's supporting Fauci and say, do the right things, people. Well, he's changed. Nicholson wasn't done siding with the White House's chief medical advisor. 3 days later, on March 18, 2020, Nicholson suggested that then President Donald Trump, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and Fauci were offering a solution that can help us get past COVID-19 as soon as possible. He then referred people to an article at The Hill in which he urged people to get in Fauci's corner. Nicholson, a Waukesha County businessman, got in the GOP race for gubernator last week, mounting a challenge to frontrunner Rebecca Clayfish, the former lieutenant gubernator, for the right to take on Democratic Governor Tony Evers in November. Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, made the case that by hunkering down, Americans can slow the rate of transmissible and lower the curve of those infected by COVID-19. Although hunkering down may sound like a simplistic approach, it clearly is the right approach, whether or not you're at high risk to experience the most severe symptoms of COVID-19. He sounds so damn reasonable. He'd never get elected on the Republican platform here in the state of Wisconsin, Fancy.
At least not saying things that way. I mean, aren't they the ones who are going after Fauci because Fauci early on said something against maybe using masks, and then things changed? He was updated, got updated information, and now is all for masks. But they hang on to this one thing that he said back then. Well, why won't they apply that same thing to Kevin Nicholson? I'm just saying maybe have a little consistency. But again, I'm insane because I keep, doing the same things and expecting a different result.
Well, in part, and it always bothered me that Fauci gave that advice. And apparently the advice Fauci gave was sort of preventative of a rush on surgical masks because our healthcare professionals in this new, and back then it was Alpha. When the pandemic was new, Fauci basically said, masks, don't worry about masks. Well, really what they were saying is leave the mask for the healthcare professionals. I wish he had said that more clearly, more publicly, but he didn't. But Nicholson did, and he made it clear and expressed himself clearly on Fox News. Nicholson went on Fox News at the time, back in March of 2020. Now, he said, thanks for having me on Fox News last night at Tracy Gallagher. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the steps we can each take proactively to limit the spread of COVID-19 and move beyond this pandemic as soon as possible. Now back to the reporting of Daniel Bice. Needless to say, Republicans are not so enamored these days with the idea of hunkering down, masking up, or paying homage to Fauci's brilliance. Perhaps Nicholson has some explaining to do to his fellow Republicans. But on Thursday night, Nicholson rejected a request while at Serb Hall. Now, Serb Hall, that's Milwaukee. That would also be under the mask mandate. You think he wore a mask? Or do you think he followed the Rojo example?
I'm going to go ahead and say he didn't. If he wants to stay viable in this election for Republicans, he better not mask up.
Well, here's a little something from Thursday night. That was last night, apparently. Nicholson rejected a request while at Serb Hall to provide an explanation for his past remarks and how to combat the coronavirus, scurrying away from a reporter when asked about them. So he is kind of following Rojo's example a little. He was in Milwaukee to endorse former Milwaukee Alderman Bob Donovan in his mayoral bid. Now, Donovan was on Earl's show just the other day. Hours later, however, Nicholson vying to become the angriest man in Wisconsin politics. I thought I was the angriest man in Wisconsin politics. Maybe I don't count. I'm not running for anything. Went on the attack in a statement emailed to the Journal Sentinel. Get real. My tweet was made in March of 2020. Yeah, way back almost 2 years ago. Like former President Trump and millions of Americans who gave Anthony Fauci the benefit of the doubt at the start of the pandemic, we now know that that trust was misplaced because we've seen who he is. We've seen his true character. Kind of like we're seeing Nicholson's true character.
And what is that? What specifically would they have him prosecuted for?
Then Nicholson concluded with this. Anthony Fauci lied and manipulated the nation on COVID for almost 3 years. He should be fired and referred to prosecutors for lying to Congress. That's one way to get people to forget your past associations with the guy, go off in a completely different direction. Not that Nicholson is alone in making such remarks about Fauci. U.S. Senator Rand Paul earlier referred Fauci to the Justice Department for allegedly lying to Congress about whether the U.S. helped fund gain-of-function research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. Fauci vigorously disputes the claim. Paul and some other conservatives suggest the virus originated in the Wuhan lab and was released to the public. Isn't that the new platform of the RNC? Hold China, communist China,
you got to say communist China.
Commie Chai Coms, something like that. Anyways, and Wyoming GOP Senator Anthony Bouchard has posted a meme on his congressional campaign Facebook page suggesting that Fauci should be executed. After prosecution, the chairs, the gallows, or lethal ejection, Bouchard wrote. Nicholson certainly hasn't gone that far, but it's early. A spokesperson for Rebecca Clayfish said Friday she had no comment. I'll let the other guy go hang himself, right? So at least Clayfish showed a little intelligence in staying out of that fray. Nicholson, the angriest politician in Wisconsin.
Couldn't you just be yourself and maybe go from there? Do you have to change everything, or is this like part of becoming the cult? You have to go and get the haircut, and you got to get the, the tattoo, and you got to wear the shoes and drink the Kool-Aid. I don't get it. Like you could be yourself and just say, hey, back then I thought that this was thing, and now I disagree with it. But no, we want to throw him in jail now for what again? Wuhan, communist China. I don't know. I've already blacked out halfway through the explanation. Is that it?
Maybe he's been Nicholson. Maybe he's been stress painting late at night like I have. I've been kind of angry all week.
Smelling like fumes, splatters all over your shirt. No.
I know. We're going to marital therapy. I signed up down at Sherwin-Williams. I used that joke earlier this week.
It keeps it. You know what? Go back to the well. It's very nice.
Here's a little information I didn't know until very recently. I'll share it, and then we'll get to the phones. 844-967-2789. I will leave time for calls. Patrick Marley at the Journal Sentinel. Remember those false electors, the fraudulent ones? Well, I was unclear on the fact that they had met in a secret location and that they brought armed security with them.
Yeah.
Here's the reporting, new to me, but I'll share it with you. Wisconsin Republicans who posed as presidential electors in 2020 met secretly for an hour before filling out official-looking paperwork at the state capitol. And they were accompanied by armed security. That's new news, according to one of the participants. The account given a year ago in a podcast by would-be elector Bill Feehan provides one of the most detailed descriptions, yet a meeting that is now being scrutinized by federal prosecutors and the U.S. House Committee investigating last year's riot at the U.S. Capitol. Now, here apparently is from the Feehan featuring podcast. And, my fear here, Bill Feehan, who apparently said too much in a podcast, is you're going to make it hard to book guests. Others are going to be worried about incriminating themselves. There's no way Rojo will ever come back on the show.
Oh, I know.
But anyways, here's how Feehan apparently incriminated himself and his co-conspirators. I quote, I left my home a little after 8 o'clock and drove to a secret meeting in Madison and met all the other electors there. There was security, armed security to protect us. And the other officials from the Republican Party of Wisconsin were there. It's all super secret for security reasons. So we met in a secret location. We waited for almost an hour before they took us to the state capitol. It might be preferable for them to meet in private if possible to thwart the ability of protesters to disrupt the event. That was the writing of Kenneth Cheeseborough, the unfortunately named attorney who was writing the letters to Troopus.
Cheeseborough.
Keep it on the down low, bro. So apparently they had armed security, went to a secret location. Then they were moved to the Capitol.
So the insurrection was armed. Okay.
Well, that answers another one of Ron Johnson's questions. Here, we thought it was just patriots. Well, they are the true patriots. In their own mirrors, they think they're patriots because they signed up for Trump. Come back. One last segment. Your phone calls could be next. 844-967-2789.
Nobody knew that healthcare could be so complicated. People have worked on healthcare for many years. It's a very complicated situation.
You care for the house, the kids, and our future. A Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I'm just texting him back. I'm just posting a story. I'm just changing the song.
No. When it comes to distracted driving, just don't. Sending a text takes your eyes off the road for just 5 seconds, but in that time, your car can travel the length of an entire football field. Any distracted driving just isn't worth it.
Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at soundedouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
The Devil's Advocates. So relevant, they have 1 foot in tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday edition. It ain't working for the weekend, but it is Loverboy, and I hope you're loving this big show. Got Fancy Brian here, well, right here on my screen. I guess you're zooming in from Waukesha, down there at WAUK 540 AM and the Shaw 101 FM. I got Evan here in Madison for the very last time. This is the very last broadcast originating from the Devil Radio Studios ever. Because we're moving this weekend, man. We got better, bigger digs. We're like doubling our square footage. The mothership, it will be like the Enterprise. It will be enormous. We're going on a strange new mission to seek out new super cool political topics and take your calls at 844-967-2789. But Fancy, a little bit more of the reporting over at the Journal Sentinel, talking about the false elector story in response to a lawsuit brought by Jim Trupus. Again, he was the attorney the Cheese Bro guy was emailing with, putting together the false elector plan. The Wisconsin State Supreme Court ruled against Trump an hour before the Electoral College met. That was the fraudulent Electoral College and the legitimate Biden electors. Wisconsin's Republicans met as electors, even though the court had found the state's 10 electoral votes belonged to Biden. The decision was 4-3, with Brian Hagedorn joining the court's 3 liberals. Now, here's what Feehan said on the podcast. Again, the unfortunate podcast appearance in retrospect.
He released a podcast a month afterwards, but he may have recorded it maybe days afterwards.
Well, the mood was one of excitement up until we heard the result of the Wisconsin State Supreme Court ruling. Well, that seems like a confession to me. You knew that all the legal channels had been exhausted, yet you were acting and claiming now as a legal defense that somehow this was just a precursory, just a procedural move to hold open the options. There were no options. They had been exhausted an hour before you made this vote, and you were deflated a little bit more. The conservative Justice Hagedorn sided with the liberal justices and denied the lawsuit that was heard on Saturday. So, of course, that was deflating to everybody in the room because, to see Hagedorn choose to side with the liberal justices was something we didn't know that would happen. They were still hoping by a 4-3 going the other way that the electors would be awarded to Trump. I mean, literally in the state of Wisconsin, it was a 1 justice vote differential. But anyways, here's what the state Republican Party is now saying. Anna Kelly, a spokeswoman for the state Republican Party, downplayed the secrecy surrounding the event. She noted that 3 days before the meeting, Trupus included a footnote in a filing to the state Supreme Court that said the Republicans plan to gather as electors. So they confessed prior to the crime. It's here's what Kelly said. If one of the electors discusses the process in a podcast, by definition, it's not all that secretive.
Yeah.
Well, I've told a story after the fact. We kept it secret. We were buying a little radio station in Waukesha up until it happened. And then we told people about it. So that doesn't seem like, a very logical defense to me, but here's more. She said the secret location Feehan mentioned was the state Republican Party headquarters in Madison. That doesn't make it better. They met there beforehand so they could travel to the Capitol together. Trupus did not participate in their meeting, she said. Feehan and his colleagues now find themselves under a microscope. Oh, they got a microscope. I hope it's up there. You know what? Here are the names of the insurrectionist 10. One more time, in case you'd forgotten them. Bob Spindell. He is a Republican appointee to the Wisconsin Elections Commission. Andrew Hitt, attorney by trade, then chairman of the state Republican Party. He's been subpoenaed by the January 6th committee, as has Kelly Rue. She is the chairwoman of the 8th Congressional District GOP. Carol Bruder, vice chairwoman of the 1st Congressional District GOP. Scott Grabens, I know Scott. He's the chairman of the Dane County Republican Party. Bill Feehan, the podcaster, he's the chairman of the La Crosse County Republican Party. Kathy Kiernan, chairwoman of the 5th Congressional District GOP. Daryl Carlson, chairman of the 6th Congressional District GOP. Pam Travis, vice chairwoman of the 7th Congressional District GOP. And Mary Burstrand, vice chairwoman of the Midwest region for the Republican National Convention. Do you notice a theme here? They all have these affiliations with this party, this club, if you will. One last part, reporting about Feehan. Feehan did not say how the Republicans got in the Capitol or which room they used, and he did not return a phone call on Thursday. Here's what he said back on the podcast, though. We had to arrange to be let into the state capitol. For our own legal defense, are you listening to this? We had to arrange to be let into the state capitol because it was closed and locked under pandemic orders. We know we received citations for entry into the same building the very same week. Only we weren't there to try and overturn democracy, Fancy Brian. We were just doing a little First Amendment deviltry dropping off.
Spreading a little cheer.
And singing some Christmas carols. Rooms were reserved in the Capitol that day on behalf of state Republican Party by aides to Scott Fitzgerald, who at the time was the majority leader of the state Senate and who is now a member of Congress. It's unclear if Republicans used one of those rooms or gathered elsewhere in the Capitol. Feehan didn't say in his podcast why the Republicans had armed security. The Capitol Police Patrol and the Capitol patrol the Capitol and its grounds. I know they're the ones that send us the citations, aren't they, Fancy Brian?
Yes, they are.
844-967-2789. Your thoughts?
I just think Cheesebro missed an opportunity because he probably could have gotten all of them to show up with $100 gift card for Visa to go and collect from them.
Jack from Merrimack, welcome back. What do you got?
Yeah, it's pretty ironic. The Republicans who've been screaming voter fraud have become the fraudulent voters. And this is the only documented, and I mean well documented, they signed their names to the document. Instance of widespread voter fraud, multiple states involved. They got to get on the, figure out a way out of this, and I don't think they can.
Well, there are a couple of law firms that are a little scrambly, putting out statements like where Andrew Hitt works, Jack. Here's a brief part of the statement. As a bipartisan institution, Michael Best, and let's not forget they were the lawyers of choice for Republicans during the redistricting, but bipartisan, they call themselves. Michael Best does not limit the rights of its employees and professionals to lawfully participate in the political and electoral process in a manner they choose outside of the law firm Michael Best Strategies. Yeah, but the allegations are this was illegal as hell. And your associate probably knew. Thank you to our fine guests. They include Bill Press, podcaster, pundit, friend of ours, and of course, the incomparable James Santelle, former U.S. attorney. We always love it when Jim comes around. I'll stand pat, sit pat, hold on to the wheel. Earl Ingram's next. Keep it locked. Devil Radio. Signing off here from the studio for the last time ever. Back better, greater on Monday. Have a great weekend.
You know what? I'm happy.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Red.